So they say, we will want to teach your children how to live in this world and ultimately how to get out, we hope. So then they go on and they say, did you happen to notice there was no courses that taught you children how to work? There was no business courses, no shop courses that related to corporate shop. Now, there were shop courses relating to how to fix your house up. And they say, well, they did say here, in brackets, save those which show the student how to maintain his or her own home and related equipment, and no courses related to work of any kind. Those come later as you try to get a job or qualify for a job. We would teach our children to understand the life they're entering first. They must know how to survive out there. We must teach them the pitfalls of life. They have to understand relationships, how to survive in an economic landmine of credit and advertising and the assorted con games that will always be with us. Now, what did they say? They said, you understand that no matter what you do, those game players will try at you and work you, but then on the other hand, you've got a school that actually teaches your child something. They might immediately say, if you're involved in the computer, you have these computer program, and all of a sudden they have these updates. You know why they have these updates? They have these updates because there are people that are trying to get in there and ultimately, in the long run, take your money. Well, the same thing's going to happen in the school system and in life. And basically, your school will be the updates. Okay, this is the new thing to try and understand how it works. Don't fall for it. Wouldn't that be something? Get these game players, get them into the semi-private areas of our society and then go ahead and play their games, because those people that enter in that semi-private arena would be qualified. Boy, would that be different. So what they say is that your child must be able to decide what it is they want out of life and how to get it. You got to teach them all the pitfalls that will stop them from getting what they want out of life, and then all the ways that they can deal with getting it. And maybe the intelligence game players will lose out here, or at least slow them way down. And that would be pretty nice. So they say the concept we are working with now is this: schools and colleges do a very poor job of getting a student ready to perform the job they're supposedly trained for. Now, what are they talking about? They're talking about, why don't you go to college to learn your new job? And they say that at this point in time, schools and colleges and universities do a terrible job of getting a student ready for the job that they're supposedly trained for. As soon as the student begins this job, he or she must be trained right away to do the job. Why then does business choose students from college and universities rather than fresh out of high school? Because people who own businesses have been fed the same lies that we all have been fed, and they too believe them. In truth, business might as well train their own students and do a much better job at a lower cost. In truth, the concept of training workers is all but lost in this country. It would benefit business well to wrestle that concept back from the intelligent game players, back from the colleges and universities, and do it themselves. The first thing that's going to happen when you realize that you're paying for these schools as a parent is you're going to say, hey, why are we training our kids to be better at your business? You train our kids to be better at your business. You want to hire them, train them. And that's the best thing for both. That's the best thing for your child, and that's the best thing for the businesses, the best thing for everybody. So they say, let's look at the concept for a minute. You must understand that you are paying for your child's education at this point. What is that education? What are they teaching your child now? Because of all the smoke screens and deceit today, we must point to the truth so that you might see it. The truth is your child is being taught how to work for corporate America. They aren't being taught about life because they don't have to be to work for a corporation. They aren't being taught about economics and advertising because they don't need to be that to be a good employee. They aren't taught even the basic fundamentals about relationships that could easily be passed on in schools because the corporate America doesn't see the need. Do you understand yet? We are paying for our children's education and they're being educated to work for corporations. You are paying the bill to teach your child how to be a good corporate pool person. And do they emphasize that? Over and over and over and over, they tell you that in education you're being taught as send your child to college, make them have education debt, go on and on and on. And what are they being taught? They're being taught to work for the corporate, that bureaucracy. They're being taught the politics of corporate, you know what. So you're becoming a corporate pool person. If you got a really good degree, you're a super corporate pool person, and that doesn't count. You know, you're going to have these people who say, wait a minute. When I went to college, I learned how to do this thing, and that would be the only, well, I mean, at least a good way, if not a better way, and I didn't learn anything about corporate pool, blah, blah, blah. Well, you can't help but learn to be a good corporate pool person. That's in there, and there's nothing you can do about it. And when advertising is all gone, you know, your grandkids are going to take a look at you and say, how did you fall for that? How did you fall for being taught to be a good corporate pool person? But that isn't now, and now is what we're dealing with. So basically, you're paying the bill so that your child can learn to be a good corporate pool person. That's pretty disgusting. Those people that are crying, oh no, I was taught things that I needed to know. There are things taught in colleges and universities that are technical, if you will, and the technical part of them is being taught, and that's valid. And those people are going to say, what are you talking about? We're not talking about them. We're talking about the other college graduates who are getting into the corporate political mess where you have no problem climbing on 20 backs to get to the top, and to hell with those people you climbed on. And you're taught that. So one of the things you aren't taught is how to start your own business or build your own business. You aren't teaching them to become a whole person. You aren't teaching them how to think for themselves, how to learn for themselves, or how to become who they want to be. You are teaching them how to bow and scrape, how to serve, how to fit in the mold chosen by corporate America. Whew. You are paying the bill as corporate America molds your child into a corporate pool person. You know who they are. You have to deal with them all the time. You are paying for a school system that teaches your child to become a corporate employee. Now do you see it? Isn't it bad enough that your child becomes one of them? Now, who are they talking about? They're talking about those people that you have to deal with in the corporate world that are less than concerned about your well-being, and I'm putting that lightly, and so are they. And they aren't making any of this light. You're paying the bill as corporate America molds your child into a corporate pool person? Whew. Man. Now do you see it? Isn't it bad enough that you have to have your child become one of them? Must you pay for it too? So you've been had. They got you. You fell for it. You paid your hard-earned dollar to train your child to become a corporate pool person. Isn't it time for that game to come to an end? In the new education system, there's no place for business courses. Let business have full choice of what they want to teach a person after they hire them. Let business teach its trade, and then let business pay for that part of the education. We know when business pays, it's just passed on to us anyway, so we end up paying it. But at this time, they get to at the time where they're doing their own teaching, they get to choose what's being taught, and they're more concerned about it at that point in time because they think they're paying the bill. Nobody anywhere in this country recognizes that corporate America just passes everything on to you to pay. Ultimately, the key to everything that the they who are giving this book out is saying constantly is you pay for it all. You hear? You pay for everything. Corporate America tells you that you can't do this because they're the boss and you're the one paying for it. And they're saying that constantly. So they say our schools have done a poor job in that area anyway, and pretended to teach and then give a degree, and then they end up leaving the business or reteach as it should have been done in the first place. And so why do it in the first place? Why allow our, you ever stop and think of why they're doing it? It's why we're doing everything. Corporate America owns us. Corporate America has too much money and they own us. And why do they have too much money? Overcharging. They say over and over again, you're paying for it all. They're overcharging. If they didn't overcharge that, you could make the decisions. Oh, you could say, now look, I want these television programs and I don't want any commercials. Now, do you understand that they're actually saying that that's true? That there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to say, I want this program, and none of those programs, and this one, and this one. And I want them at 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock, and I want to be able to pick and choose, and that's what I want. You will do it. Why? Because you are paying for it. You don't have to put up with them telling you. Who's telling you? The people that are overcharging you so that they pretend like they have the power. That's the whole thing. The key to the thing in every aspect of your life is that you pay for it. You pay for the television shows. You pay for the entertainment. You pay for the child's education. You're paying for all that stuff. And nobody's, well, no, the corporation, well, look, these advertisers are paying for my free television show. See, if we can ever get you to grow up and ever get you to catch this, and ever get you to get and you remember that the reason you're not, they're not picking on you. You're not growing up because of advertising, and advertising works. You turn that off and you start saying, wait a minute. If I have to pay for more for a box of cereal so that they can buy advertising from this television station so that they will advertise to me to buy this cereal right in the middle of a really nice television show that I'm paying for, what's the deal here? And with that, that's just exactly where we are. What's the deal here? So they go on saying, hopefully we have shown you why business doesn't belong in our schools. There's another unit that doesn't belong in our schools too. That unit is our government. What did they say? They said business doesn't belong. They told you over and over again, business doesn't belong in the school. Religious people, anyway, single religions don't belong in the school. The history of them should, but not the religion. Don't let religion tell you what to teach. Don't let the do-gooders tell you what to teach. Don't let business tell you what to teach. Oh, let's go on. Don't let government tell you what to teach. We can teach history and the content of government, but government has no place in what we teach. They have no business being involved in what we teach in any way, shape, or form. That's kind of like letting the master tell the slave what it is that they should learn. No, it's wrong. They don't belong. The beast can't decide what the master shall learn. The beast can't be telling. Government is a beast of burden. They can't tell the master what they should learn, what they should do, can it? Can the beast of burden be telling you what you should teach your child? No. Does it? Yeah. Then will it? No. No business, no corporate pool, no government, no one religion belongs in our schools. No one religion. If that can't be accomplished any other way, we must put it in the Constitution and see to it. How are we going to... That's kind of clears that up. So how are we going to teach? That covered, we move to how we teach our children. We suggest the concept that there be a voucher given for education so the person or parent might be able to choose the place and the people who teach the class. Why? Because it gives the parent more control, not the bureaucracy. You must decide how your child's taught. Why is anybody else deciding how your child's taught? So you have a voucher that says you got 1 year of education handed to somebody and you get it free. You get 1 year of education for your child. And you get the voucher for each year the child chooses to go to school or qualifies. Choice again. Always choice, choice, choice. See, what they're pointing to is you have a right to the choice. Now, and they're always pushing you so that you have choice, not somebody else. Because, if you take a look at it, and what they've said all the time is, as soon as somebody else gets the ability to make a choice for you, they always restrict your choices. You understand what they're saying? Do you understand what they're saying? Always. You look at any time you give your choice away, and immediately the first thing they do is restrict your choices. Do they? Now, those who are given this work, did they restrict your choices? No. They added to your choices. We have semi-private places where you can do all kinds of things you can't do now. So they've added to your choices. They've made your home a castle, so you can do all kinds of things in your home now. They've added to your choices because they understand that that's the key. That's what you're doing here. That's what you need to do. So, as that becomes a fact, then karma works better. So, what you have is, you have students, children that go to some kind of school, and that's up to the point where they're too young to leave home, and they are going to leave home sooner in this educational system, and we'll get to that down the road. But before they leave home, they are going to be in school, and we've kind of covered everything that we need to teach them up to the point where they leave home to go into another kind of schooling, and keep them away from the corporate pool and all those people that would restrict your choices down to what they want. They say those who are very immature for their age might stay home and go to school. And you understand, actually you don't understand because you don't know what they're going to do down the road, but basically they're going to say, as soon as puberty comes into play for a child and they get to the point where you can't live with them, they move into a school system that's out of the home. Totally. In other words, they live in dormitories, if you will, and we go on to that there. But up until the point where this child's in school, and that could be, there are people that don't hit maturity until they're 18, 19 years old. I mean, sexual maturity or puberty, they don't get to be rotten people because they have to be kicked out of the home until much later. So those people can go to school, and the schools are there with a voucher, and there they are. So they say that leaves us with those who come into their teenage years and have the great problem with both school and life. So many of those people find themselves lost in this restricted world. There is no place for them. They have needs that can't be met and aren't being met. What do we do with them? Okay, now, this is probably the first time that anybody's ever sat down and said, hey, we're not meeting a whole group of people's needs. Who are those people? Well, they're anybody that hits puberty, and all of a sudden the chemicals kick, and they want you to get the concept right at the beginning, and this is the beginning right here, that the child is chemically forced to come into conflict with you so that you'll kick them out of the home, and that's a genetic, biological program that basically is the kicking the bird out of the nest. Yeah. Sooner or later, that bird's got to fly. So, and you have to understand that the bird's sitting there being fed in this comfortable little nest that's safe. Okay, why is the bird going to leave the nest? Because the parent will kick them out if they don't go. That's a genetic program. That's what's supposed to happen. Now, you come to the human being, and of course they think they're way superior to the animals, and they've got everything all together, and blah, blah, blah. How many parents come into conflict with their kids? How many kids come into conflict with their parents? If you don't, there's something wrong with you. And let me tell you, the fear that people that are in their 60s and 70s have is that their child might stay at home, and some do. That's wrong. That's wrong. That's what they say. That's wrong. Okay? That's wrong. Okay, now, how do we keep that from happening? Because it's wrong. You have a chemical genetic program that just you come into conflict with your parent, and now all of a sudden you're not wanted at home. I mean, you're loved, but you're not wanted at home, and you're not wanted out there in society. You're not wanted anywhere. And what do they say? There's no place for you. You have needs that can't be met and aren't being met. So what do we do with you? And I don't think I've ever heard anybody say it, but here they give you a suggestion. So what they say is, from the chapter on economics, we would be given a certificate worth 1 year of education. That certificate could be used anywhere you wish, as long as that place proved by testing that it could teach those things agreed upon by the state. And the cry goes up, oh no, our schools will be abandoned and the children will go everywhere else. If you're given a certificate, then all of these big, beautiful school buildings with all these wonderful teachers will be abandoned and everybody will go somewhere else. Doesn't that statement itself admit that schools aren't doing the job that we who are paying the bill want? Take control again and gain this right back. You pay the bill, and again and again and again, you pay the bill. You can decide who is going to teach your child and who's going to teach your child. You already decided as a state what you're going to, the minimum things you're going to teach, and a whole bunch of the other things that don't relate to reading, writing, and arithmetic that we've already gone into. Those are going to be taught in your state, and so you already know that. Now, if you want to be somebody who's teaching children, you have to certify. You have to have a license that certifies that you are able to and do teach the children those things. Okay, now as soon as you got that license, which you didn't have to pay for, by the way, at that point, anybody can choose to give you the certificate and you can begin teaching their children. Now, so the parent has choices. The people who are being given the certificate and basically the money are offering you an option that you have to determine what you want for your child, and that's the way it should be. I don't understand. Well, I do understand, and we all understand why it isn't that way. But we also all understand that our education system's terrible. Terrible, absolutely terrible. It's 90% useless. So basically you have this certificate in your hand, so you got the money to send them somewhere, and that's your choice. And where is it you're going to send your child? And one of the things that we just got through talking about is where are you going to send your teenager who's just hit puberty and you can't stand them anymore, and they're serious about it, and they say, come on, we really have sat down and thought about this, and we really have. Well, let's show you what they say. Here comes another concept that'll cause the do-gooders to protest greatly. The problem stretches past schooling and into the home. We're going to teach a child from the 6th year, give or take, on past his teenage years and into adulthood. Our social system as it stands in our social system as it stands now, there's no real place for a student as he or she becomes a teenager. There's no system for a child's advancement into puberty that is going to work. You give them a schoolroom that's full of 20 kids and windows, and you expect them to learn something. Come on, you're not being real. They're hyper, they're stressed, they're doing all the things that you're supposed to do to be kicked out of the house. And you bottle them up in this little container and try to figure out why some of the students don't do what you want them to do. You don't have a place for them. You haven't looked at it. You haven't decided that, no, this is wrong. You haven't even looked at it. So they say that, the decisions that you've made and the choices you've given your kids come from the fact that you decided that man is no longer a monkey and no longer needs the rite of passage. What? And they say, wrong again. Your child needs to pass from childhood to puberty, and we all need to know when that happens. Now, there's a different concept, and one that, the less intelligent, less civilized people have thrown away, and the less civilized people have, and the more civilized people think they've thrown it away, and they say that was wrong. You shouldn't have done that. Your child needs to pass from childhood to puberty, and we all need to know when that happens. Your child must pass from puberty into adulthood, and there's a need to know when that happens also. So the mother and father needs to know when that happens. The aunts and uncles need to know. Everybody needs to know. What did they say? They said you need to have some means of knowing when a child hits puberty. That changes your relationship with the child. Then they also need to know when your child leaves puberty and passes into adulthood. And everybody also needs to know what that is, when that is. And they say that's the need. We must provide a means for identifying when a child reaches puberty and a means of identification when they do. The same is true as a person comes into adulthood. There's no age here, just signs, the symptoms, the maturity shown in action and thought. And they say, no, make it clear we're not indicating there should be competition to see who reaches each level first. But, we know it'll happen, and so be it. We would accept this as the less than foolish competition in grades and so forth that we see now. And what they say all the time is take a look at what's going on now and then measure it against the fact that these people who reach puberty will have a ring or a badge, and these people who reach adulthood will have a ring and a badge. And some of these goofy people, monkeys, if you will, the uncivilized people will try to be there first so that they're the best, which has absolutely no meaning, best. But that's what they're going to do, and they recognize that, and so be it. We would accept this as less than the foolish competition of grades that we see now. The grades they're talking about are ABCs and grade 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're competition grades, and they're baloney, and they're not useful in any way, and they want to throw them out. So they say, remember, we asked you to measure the new system against the true now system. The true now system gives us all manner of ridiculous forms of competition in our schools, both for the student and the parent. Most competition is a form of dominion, and for those that win, a choice, and for those who win, they're making a choice, and they don't win. They said back there a while ago, how many A students are A people, and how many F students are F people. It's the grades are irrelevant. So they say, let's develop a method of passage for a child into puberty. A ring or a pin should be sufficient. Please, a simple one that's the same for all. No, my ring is better than your ring, chant please. That's the fallen one. The fallen one could con so many people into believing that they could demand of everyone, judge me by what I own rather than what I am, is unbelievable as a child, but it's carried on into adulthood. Do you understand what they said there? Even the parent, will buy the ring that's a better ring because I'm better than you are, or my ring's better than you, so I have to be better than you. And that concept is passed on and on and on, right on into adulthood, and parents have it and the children have it, and they keep saying, come on, you're the driver of the car. We know the car is gorgeous. We know the car is fast, but what about you? You could be a rotten, good-for-nothing, useless piece of human being, and you honestly believe that you'll never get out of your car. So you'll never have a life outside of your car. You'll never have a life being forced to be who you really are. You'll never sit on the television drinking beer and watching TV and useless to your better half. Of course you will if that's who you are. Well, we've gone over it again and again and again, so someday. So a gathering of those who are considered family and friends to present this pin or ring in a ceremony wouldn't be too much, would it? No need to make it a party if the cost is prohibitive. Thus, even the poorest could join in the concept. With this ring or pin, the child will be treated differently. They have become more than a child and must be treated as such. The touch and hug of a child who will be replaced by a handshake for those of the opposite sex. Those who reach puberty now are aware of sex, or soon will be, and a need for a new set of rules with their adult acquaintances is mandatory. So, you're kind of in school or wherever you are, you're taught, look, you're going to get this ring, and what does it mean, or this pin. The education part of it is they give you an education that you're about to enter into a new role of life and that things are different. Education of the child so they know what is okay and what is not okay. Education of the adult so that he or she knows the true effect of their action on one who is passing this new social arena. Everybody's educated that, okay, now this person is into their puberty, you have to treat them different. We don't do that in this society, and that's stupid. It's time to change that. So now they want a pin or a badge that tells you where that child is. You might have a 16-year-old girl or boy that doesn't have the pin because they're just not that mature yet. Anyway, they say this is perhaps the most important and needed part of education. Keep the church and religion out of this area of education. Teach the true effect of sexual abuse that sexual abuse has on both parties. Oh, they went back and said, now the adult also needs to be taught because the child is passed into a new social area. So you teach the true effect of sexual abuse has on both parties to the adult. Remove the shroud and expose those who would abuse. That game must come to an end, and the women must demand it. When the cover-up is ended and you see the full extent of this abuse, perhaps you will then come to grips with the true problem. Guilt has not solved the problem. Hiding it has not solved it either. The church has surely not solved the problem. Bring it out in the light and examine it. Only then will you find a view that is clear enough to see the problem, who causes the problem, and how to solve the problem. And then they say more in Book 5. Well, what are they saying here? They're saying, once the child moves into puberty, you've got to treat him different. And then they sit down with you as an adult and they say, this is what actually happens when you abuse a child. This is what happens to him later on in life. And you teach it. So that what? So that basically you make a choice. And that's what they're saying all the time. You can't just stumble into this and, whoops. No. You actually make a choice. You know the ins and outs of it, and you make a choice, and that's what's wanted. And they said that they would go into it more in Book 5 if that's ever written and that's what's needed. But in the meantime, here you are. Here's a child who just went from where they were to this badge or this ring, and all of a sudden they're in puberty. Now you treat them different. Now, if you treat them with abuse, that's a choice that you're making because you've been educated. You can't say, well, I didn't know, or, I was too drunk, or, none of the things that are said now work in the fact that you've actually been educated as an adult that this is what is required of you, and if you choose not to do that, you're breaking the law. Now, what happens when you break this law? We're not going to get into that. We got into it a little bit in the law chapter, but we're not going to get into it here. And I kind of asked them why, and they said, well, number one, nobody's written Book 5. Oh, okay. So, and number two, then, and they said number two is it's a really a delicate situation when you stop and think about it. You got somebody who just, well, we'll just say some adult stumbles into a situation and there they are. It's already done. They've abused.